Okay, hey guys. Okay, this is going to be your second video lesson for Wordly Wise Unit 1. We went over all the words last week and you did scenes 1 through 7 last week. This is going to start with scene 8, and it is the passage with all of the words in it. And we're going to first cold read it, which means we're going to go through and I'm just going to read it to kind of get the feeling of how the passage is written. The second time we go through, we're going to stop at each word and we're going to work on identifying or understanding the meaning of the word based on the context clues, okay, and the context and how it's used in the sentence. And I'm going to do about 7 of them with you, or about half of them. And then the other half you're going to do on your own, okay, at the end. So let's get started. Okay, this is all about Lady Liberty, and you can see the picture there. The Statue of Liberty is a symbol of freedom to people all over the world. Since 1886, it has welcomed immigrants who sail into New York Harbor to begin a new life in the United States. Lady Liberty, as the statue is affectionately known, overcame difficulties before reaching these shores. The statue was a gift from the people of France to the people of the United States. It was given in honor of the friendship between the countries and the 100th anniversary of the American Revolution. Before the statue could be put in place, the people of the United States had to provide a pedestal for it at a cost of $100,000. That was no easy task. A fundraising drive was launched and ran into difficulties. Newspapers ridiculed the effort. They argued that the French were sending the statue, so they should pay the cost of the base. Despite this, efforts to raise money continued. A 40-foot-high section of the right arm with the hand clasping the torch was sent to the United States. It was displayed at the 1876 Philadelphia exhibition, marking the 100th birthday of the United States. Visitors paid 50 cents to climb onto the balcony surrounding the torch. Other fundraising events were held, but contributions fell short. The future of the project seemed in doubt. When a newspaper appeal promised to print donors' names, the money was raised. The rest of the statue was shipped from France. It arrived in pieces in 200 wooden crates. Assembling proceeded without delay. A public holiday was declared on October 28, 1886, when the Statue of Liberty was unveiled. It was one of the largest gatherings ever in New York City. The statue stands on Liberty Island. It is reached by a ferry ride from Manhattan. At 305 feet, the statue was the tallest structure in New York City. Though it is now dwarfed by lofty skyscrapers, at the time it was the most conspicuous landmark in the city. In the 1880s, people seeking a better life were flooding into the United States. They arrived at the rate of 1 million a year. Many came from Russia and Eastern Europe. They had been persecuted by their governments and were seeking safety. Others escaped the poverty of their lands for a prosperous life in America. The museum at the base of the statue contains a bronze tablet placed there in 1903. On it is a poem written 20 years earlier by Emil Lazarus, whose family had fled Russia. The poem captured the imagination of the American people and became associated with the Statue of Liberty. It ends with these eloquent lines. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Now, you can see down here at the bottom, there were some words when we were in there that were not vocabulary words, okay, but kind of have a footnote on them that you can go down and kind of see their definitions if you're not sure. Okay, and the first one was fundraising drive, and it's a noun. You might be familiar with it. Okay, it's an event to raise money for a specific purpose. Okay, and if you went back up, it kind of tells you, okay, it was right here in this paragraph where it says a fundraising drive was launched and ran into difficulties, okay, to kind of help raise that money to get that pedestal for the Statue of Liberty. The second one that kind of has a footnote is fell short, It says, but contributions fell short. And again, if you go down to the bottom, fell short, okay, is just the failure to reach a goal. Okay, so they weren't able to raise all that money, okay, for the Statue of Liberty. And then the third one down here with the footnote says donor, a person who gives something such as money, okay, to an organization. Okay, and I believe it says up here that the donors' names, okay, were printed, okay, if they had contributed money, and that had kind of spurred more people to donate because their names were going to be printed in the newspaper. So let's go back up to the top. Okay, and at the very beginning, I said that we were going to practice this. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate how this looks and what you should do when you come across words that you are unfamiliar with. So the first thing that I do is I read the word. So our first word is immigrants. The second thing I do is then I go in and I read the sentence that it's in. It says, since 1886, it has welcomed immigrants who sail into New York Harbor to begin a new life in the United States. Okay, so I can see things here that are going to help me understand this word a little bit better. Okay, it says they sail into the New York Harbor. It also says that, okay, they want to begin this new life in the United States. So based on those context clues or the context of that sentence, okay, I know that an immigrant, okay, is a person that's moving to a different country. Okay, our second word is affectionately. So I read this sentence now. Lady Liberty, as the statue is affectionately known, overcame difficulties before reaching these shores. Okay, if I'm looking for clues here, my one clue is right here. It says Lady Liberty. Okay, it's kind of a nickname, and we know that we give nicknames to people that, okay, are friends of ours or that we respect. And lady kind of has that respectable tone to it. So Lady Liberty, as the statue is affectionately known, okay, affectionately means like lovingly known. Okay, and that kind of fits with what clue that I was using. Our third word down here is pedestal. And the sentence says, before the statue could be put in place, the people of the United States had to provide a pedestal for it at a cost of $100,000. Okay, now the only thing here that's kind of helping me is that it says before the statue could be put in place. Okay, so I know the pedestal has something to do with putting that statue of Lady Liberty in its permanent place. I also know in my background knowledge, a pedestal, okay, things sit on top of. Okay, so I'm getting a good image here of this statue of Lady Liberty sitting on a pedestal, okay, and so everyone can see it. Okay, if I go down to the next one, okay, our word is clasping. And if I read this sentence, it says a 40-foot high section of the right arm with the hand clasping the torch was sent to the United States. Okay, so my clues here are hand, okay, and torch. And if the hand is clasping the torch, I know that if my hand is holding something, okay, another word, like I said, I just said the synonym would be holding, okay, the torch. So clasping would be like a strong hold of something. Our next word is exhibition. Okay, it was displayed at the 1876 Philadelphia exhibition, marking the 100th birthday of the United States. Okay, so if it was displayed, I know display means to put out so people can see. So if it was displayed at this kind of event, okay, that people were coming to celebrate the 100th birthday of the United States, I know that this like exhibition maybe is an event, okay, or something that people are going to go, okay, and be a part of, okay? It's in the public. They're going to see it. The next word here is contributions. And I'm going to read this sentence again. It says, but contributions fell short. And when we look down at the bottom, when we did fell short, they could have fallen short and they didn't raise enough. Okay, and if I go a little bit before here, okay, sometimes the sentences just aren't long enough and I don't get enough information from them. And I have to kind of go a little bit more before the sentence or maybe a little bit after the sentence to get a little bit more information. So if I go a little bit before, I'm going to go 2 sentences. It says visitors paid 50 cents to climb onto the balcony surrounding the torch. Other fundraising events were held, but contributions fell short. Well, here, fundraising and this paying 50 cents lets me know that contributions here are like giving money to support something. So notice that I had to go back a couple of sentences because the sentence that my word was in was just too short and it didn't give me enough context clues. The next one is appeal. When the newspaper Appeal promised to print donors' names, the money was raised. So when the newspaper, my clue here is promise. When they promised something, when they promised, this appeal or something that looked good for other people, it appealed to them, is when people started doing it. So when people's names were going to be printed in the newspaper, that appealed to them. So then they started to make more contributions or they started to donate more money for the Statue of Liberty's pedestal. All right, now if I go to the next ones, this is where you're going to start practicing what we just did together. So you have, I think, 7 words here: declared, unveiled, fairy, lofty, conspicuous, persecuted, poverty, and eloquent. Now we're going to do the same thing. You're going to look at the bold word. You're going to read the bold word. Then you're going to read the sentence it's in. And based on the words in the sentence, you're going to tell me, what the definition is of the word. And I want you to try to do that without looking in, your other wordly wise scenes or at those definitions. I want you to really use the context clues because that's what we use when we read our novels, we read social studies texts, we use science texts. We need to be using the context or the other words around it to decide what the word means. So your first word is declared. A public holiday was declared. Your next word is unveiled. A public holiday was declared on October 28th, 1886, when the Statue of Liberty was unveiled. So you have 2 words here in the same sentence that you need to use the context clues for, to decide what they mean. The next word is ferry. The statue stands on Liberty Island. It is reached by a ferry ride from Manhattan. The next word is lofty. Though it is now dwarfed by lofty skyscrapers, at the time it was the most conspicuous landmark in the city. And again, we have 2 of our bold words here. Let's jump down to persecuted. Many came from Russia and Eastern Europe. Our word is persecuted. Many came from Russia and Eastern Europe, and they had been persecuted by their governments and were seeking safety. Our next word is poverty. Others escaped the poverty and their lands, for a prosperous life in America. And I believe the last one is eloquent. It ends with these eloquent lines, and then there was that little poem down there at the bottom. So hopefully you used your background knowledge based on what you did from scenes 1 through 7, and you were introduced and you worked with these words, throughout the first week. Now with some of that background knowledge and then using the context clues that we practiced today, you were able to understand the words a little bit better, even if they were used with different endings or in different parts of speech than you were used to, because you were using the context clues or the words around it in the sentence, to understand the definition.